the Utilities Commission meeting to order, 7:30 p.m. Mr. Stetson is absent this evening, not unexpected. Our first item under the Utilities Commission is to approve the minutes
I gotta look at that one.
of the Utilities Commission meeting of June 3rd,
That's the
2019.
roof at Radcliffe.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Second that?
All right, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes of June 3rd, 2019?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The record show we unanimously approve the minutes. Operating funds on hand for the Utilities Commission. Total cash on hand as of July 1, 2019 is $1,737,245.64. Within that, we have designated capital funds set aside for capital projects totaling $961,200. The third item under Utilities Commission is the payment of the bills. Is there a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We unanimously agree to pay the bills, Jen, which brings us to the scintillating, eloquent,
Yes, I missed it.
articulate Bob Sykes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
And the council. The parts for the Radcliffe, for the pump at Radcliffe that you approved at the last meeting are ordered. They're gonna take 8 to 12 weeks to get in, but we still do have 2 pumps completely operational. We had a power issue at the wastewater plant on Saturday morning. I don't know what caused it. The fuses blew on John Hanson Road. But so far, we're up to about $15,000 in damages. It took out the VFD for one of the blowers.
I'm sorry, VFD?
Is a variable frequency drive. It allows us to modulate the speed of the blower based on a signal for the dissolved oxygen. It also took out the VFD on one of the return activated sludge pumps and caused some problems in the UV unit that I'm having Trojan come in to take a look at. They're scheduled for sometime next Wednesday or Thursday, depending when they can get somebody down here. At the water plant, our potassium permanganate drum that was furnished with the plant 15 years ago, the brackets for it rusted out. They're made out of steel, and steel's a bad thing to have at the water plant anyway. Chlorine just kind of chews it up. So we got rid of that, and I got something that's all plastic, a new vat that's all plastic, and it's in and working. We had to install a new gearbox at the wastewater treatment plant on top of the grit removal system. The old one, the bearings went bad, and it was original to the plant, so 13 years old. Radcliffe Pump Station. They finally got over and put a new roof on it. The roof has been leaking for about 4 months. It's kind of a concrete slab roof, so the leak was not horrendous, but it couldn't have been in a worse spot. It was leaking down where there was an electrical unit, and we'll get that fixed soon. We also had to install a new VFD on a soda ash pump at the wastewater treatment plant. It just stopped working right. And we got a new air compressor for the filters over at the wastewater treatment plant. We had been using what was installed. They were Ingersoll Rand reciprocating type piston air compressors, and we've been having problems with them since they were put in. Come to find out, piston type air compressors are only intended for up to 40% duty cycles. So what was happening is they were running hot, and the reed valves on them were getting brittle and breaking. So swapped out one of those air compressors, and I got what they call a rotary screw air compressor, which is made for 100% continuous duty. And it's supposed to last for about 10 years if we do the maintenance on it every year, which is just change the oil, the belts. So that's online, and it is much quieter than the old one. So we have high hopes, but you'll see those ticket items in the bills. And
So when we have these types of bills, are these coming out of like the capital portion of your budget figures?
The only thing that comes out of the capital portion is something that I come and I ask you to approve. as a capital item. Typically, these are just regular, you could call it,
Maintenance and upkeep.
yeah, they have in here, our budget, we build in depreciation. There's a depreciation number. Technically, that's what this is. Once a piece of equipment has lasted its expected lifetime, which in most cases is about 10 years, then you should expect that piece of equipment, you should budget for that piece of equipment to be replaced. When you don't budget for it to go, even if you budget for it to go replaced, you kind of take that money and you set it aside. And then when something happens, you're not in a quandary about it.
How old is the plant? It's about
Plant is
15 years.
13 years old now. So
So is it fair to say we're reaching, it sounds like we're reaching the end of the lives of some of these valves?
we actually
couplings.
started doing that about 6 years ago. So even when the expected life is 10 years, you should start expecting some failures after 5 or 6. So far, the major equipment items that we have already gotten work on. 2 of the blowers, 2 out of the 3 blowers have been into the shop to get work. A number of the motors, the return activated sludge pumps have been into the shop for repair. The waste sludge pumps, one of those has been in. So when you look at everything that we have, we've had to do upkeep, maintenance, or replacement on almost everything. Now, where we're at now coming up is we'll end up pumping out the basins and doing an inspection on the liners soon. Some people recommend doing that at the 10-year mark, but we don't have any indications that there's anything going wrong. So at 15 years, we'll take them down one at a time and see if there's anything in the bottom or what kind of condition the liners are in. See if we have any major depressions that would show that they need to be reinforced. But as it is, we can pretty much see most of that because the liner comes up above the water level and it is strapped to the concrete. So if we had some pressure on those, it would be pulling on the metal fasteners up above the water level, and that would be pretty noticeable. And we've seen it before, not here, but Denton has the same type plant. So they're around and there are indicators to let you know when something's going wrong. That's
Any
all I
other
have.
questions for Bob?
I can say that after a year and a half, I'm truly beginning to understand what it is that you're talking about. And to a point of having some empathy about what's going on down there. So thank you. I mean, your reports are always clear and concise, and
You're
for
welcome.
somebody that knows nothing about this, I'm always learning a lot from your report.
Give me a call and I'll give you a tour of the wastewater plant.
I'm getting close. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting
And that applies to the public as well. If there are any groups or individuals that would like a tour of the wastewater treatment plant or the water treatment plant, all you have to do is give me a call, 410-708-4603.
You know that
The
camera-
wastewater-
You know the camera's on right now.
The wastewater plant tour is not nearly as odorous as you would think. The only thing at a wastewater treatment plant that you smell is where the raw sewage comes into the plant. After that, there is a distinct lack of odor. Once it is in activated sludge and it is in the tanks and throughout the rest of the plant, the only smell is musty. Smells just like a yard or dirt. So,
Did you have questions, Dan?
A comment here, and I really appreciate it. By all accounts, you're doing a wonderful job, and we really appreciate it. But I didn't know about the problems that you had, but I honestly had a note to myself here. Ask Bob what keeps him up nights. Because generally your reports are, well, we replaced this widget or this small thing and that thing, and everything else is going fine. And at the MML conference this last week, some of the things that seemed to ring out to me with regard to budgeting, with overall operations, was the importance of early warning systems. And so I honestly did have a note to myself here. What do you forecast as being some problems? And because I didn't ask you in advance, I may want to cover some of this in another meeting, some other time. But I really would like to get kind of your sense, your forecast at what are some of the problems we should rationally anticipate.
Wasn't there a famous author who said something like, everything that comes before the word but is, yeah. So, to answer your question, Chestertown water and sewer system, the oldest part of that are the mains. So some of the mains that exist right now under the street are 100 years old. Some of those mains are made out of rolled steel. You can't get parts to repair rolled steel. So when something like that goes bad, it's a repair by replacement type of situation. You can usually patch them if it's a small, like a pinhole or a crack or something, but you can't cut that piece of pipe out and put another piece in without ordering special clamps. So I would say that one of the biggest things going forward are the older sections of Maine, specifically on streets that would be very difficult to shut down. And what pops into my mind right away is from the bridge to Maple Avenue.
Okay.
About 12 years ago, 11 to 12 years ago, we had that main get a crack. And it happened at 11 o'clock at night. Underneath of the blacktop that looks so nice and pretty on 213 is 1 foot of reinforced concrete. It took us from 12 midnight to 6 o'clock in the morning just to get down to the leak. We were jackhammering and cutting, and so I think that would be my answer.
Okay.
The other things can be taken care of normally out of the regular budget. There is also the issue of the water plant. The buildings over there are 80 to 90 years old, and they have a lean to them. One of the buildings has a 12-degree lean, and it's had 1.5-inch bar run through it from wall to wall to stabilize it. But I think in the next 20 years, I don't know if I'll be here when it happens, but in the next 20 years, that is our electrical building. So to remove the risk of a catastrophic failure, I think that should be addressed during the next upgrade to the water plant, would be to take that building down and replace it. And it doesn't need to be replaced with anything fancy, but then at the same time, that would be an opportunity to put in some facilities for the guys that work here. The only facilities that we have is a half bath. So there's a toilet and there's a hand washing sink. So sometimes the job gets dirty, and I hate to send these guys home.
Got a shower.
Yes. So when we do go for that, I think that would be a goal if we don't do it before. I'm actually going to try to budget for that, find the money in the budget to get something like that done sooner rather than later. If nothing else, just expand what we have existing and put something in. I've already talked to a construction company, and they're talking $10,000 to $20,000 to get that done. So,
Okay.
those are my concerns.
Good, thank you. And next time, be thinking also about just long-range things that we need to have on our radar screen as well.
Well, I think those are them.
Yeah, okay.
The aging mains don't stop from the bridge just up Maple Avenue. The mains that go on up, even to Greenwood, are the old ball and socket type mains. And again, they don't make those anymore. So when we get a repair, it can be difficult to find the parts.
Okay. And when you first came in a few minutes ago, you were also talking about some leaks there on Queen Street.
There was one leak.
One leak, okay.
Because of the milling.
Milling.
And that's completely normal and to be expected. Milling kind of grinds the street. So that vibration transfers into the ground and into the water pipes and sewer pipes. So if you have any that are close to failure,
That's the
that
time.
vibration is enough
Sure.
to finish it off. In this case, they got done the whole street. We had one leak. We got the line replaced with copper because it was old, and they still got their paving done that day,
So the leak is under the street, or was the household portion of
under
it?
the street.
Did you have to dig up the pavement and then go back in?
When they hit the leak, when the leak showed up, they were milling. They finished their milling, but they could not pave the street as long as the water was running.
Of course.
So they stopped the milling, we did the repair, backfilled it, and they helped backfill it and tamp it so that they knew what they were gonna be paving on top of, and they paved it.
Thank you.
Was there any other apocalyptic scenarios that you want us to?
No,
Yeah.
that's fine for now. Thank you.
You
Appreciate it.
said you were gonna find out what Lagoon Buildings is.
No, this is
The
Radcliffe
roof. The roof.
Pump Station,
Oh, okay.
the roof that was put on. And as far as I know, that's the first roof that's been put on there in about 25 years.
Okay,
All right, any other questions?
That's
Right.
thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the Utilities Commission meeting?
I make the motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah,
Any opposed?
very good.
You're out.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Always scintillating,
Yes, sir.
did not disappoint. Bill's here.
He's here.
Okay,
There he is.
we're gonna go ahead and call the mayor and council meeting to order. It's 7:48 PM. The first item on the mayor and council agenda is to approve the minutes of the mayor and council meeting of June 17th, 2019.
Motion to approve the minutes of June 17th, 2019.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show we unanimously approve the minutes. Operating funds for the town of Chestertown, total operating cash on hand this evening is $510,793.27. We also have restricted use funds for marina initiatives of $21,054.42. The third item on our agenda this evening is the payment of the bills. Is there a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We unanimously agree to pay the bills, which brings us to Hope Clark, HR 763, Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act of 2019.
All right.
Yes, thank you very much.
It's a mouthful.
Thank you. Yeah, so I and Grant Sam started the Chestertown Citizens Climate Lobby chapter here in Chestertown in last October. We have 62 members. Just a little bit of background of Citizens Climate Lobby. It's a nonprofit, nonpartisan, grassroots advocacy organization empowering people to exercise their personal and political power, focused on global warming and this particular carbon fee and dividend policy, which we now have a bill in the House. It was also introduced in the Senate last year. So I just have a couple of questions first. Well, and other things to say, but do you think global warming is a threat to Chestertown?
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so we can just look at this map. It's a flood IQ created from data from the Army Corps of Engineers, and it shows some different scenarios. Would you like to see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so frequent tidal floods, right now this year you can see, the map is clear, right? There's Wilmer Park and there's the Marina area and there's High Street and County Street. Okay, so if we look at, there's different categories. We have the highest annual tidal flood, we have hurricane categories 1 through 4. And we can look at this year, we can look at in 5 years, what happens in 10 years. Sorry, this isn't my computer book. What happens in 15 years. Okay, so this is the frequent tidal floods. And then we can look at the highest annual tidal flood in 15 years. So you can see Wilmer Park is significantly flooded, and you can see how much it's moved up. And then if we just look at hurricane category 1, we have some examples of that recently. I don't know. But there's hurricane category 1, 3. So it actually, this is, you'll see that okay, so there's a hurricane category 3 in 15 years. But say if we got one this year, still significant.
So what would the surge be in that scenario that you're showing?
I don't really know the answer to that.
Yeah,
I'm
because
not-
I know Isabel was, for example, an 8-foot surge. So in other words, the tide is 8 feet higher than like a mean high tide normally would be. And that was
Pretty high.
significant flood for us.
Yeah, there's the depth of feet. So you can see the purple is 3 feet. Sorry.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking? The blue?
Yes.
Yeah. The darker blue is 2 to 3 feet. The medium blue, sorry, is 1 to 2 feet.
But I think that's showing you, like, that's how much water is covering the ground.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
But the surge is higher than
Is
that.
right, so it's not answering your
Yeah.
question.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, I guess my question is, what are your solutions? What's your plan?
So I would say at the marina, we raised the grade of the property by 2 feet. I mean, I'm not sure what you guys are expecting us to.
No,
come
no,
up
I'm
with.
not asking for any money. I'm just starting a dialogue, yeah, or
So when
whatever,
we
you know.
redid the marina, I was insistent that we weren't gonna repair anything without addressing elevating the ground there because it was already flooding multiple times a week just with nuisance high tides. High Street's tricky because it's actually owned by the county. A lot of people don't realize that, but from the stop sign, I believe, all the way down to the river is actually a county landing. And we own Wilmer Park. If you've been down there recently, we get a lot of overwash when we get these nuisance full of new moon or southerly winds or easterly winds. So that end of the park needs some TLC because of this. So we're actually including that hopefully in a larger proposal we've been working on with the college for a waterfront walk that we'd like to extend all the way to.
I was
Radcliffe
reading
Creek.
about that, yeah, it sounds cool.
So in terms of Wilmer Park, it's tricky. I don't know if the solution is just eliminating the bulkhead and just wrapping around like restored marsh like we did closest to the pavilion, or trying to bulk the bulkhead back up and refill it and raise that as well. The challenge with all this is it's crazy expensive. The good part I think about Wilmer Park is when that floods, there's no critical infrastructure there. So a question for the town is how much money do we invest in raising something that, you know, there's no families in danger, it's just gonna flood a field. And actually, one of the reasons with the marina that we moved the marina headquarters to where it is if and when we get another Sandy or Isabel, that the part that the town owns, it would basically be flooding mostly a parking lot with not a lot of critical infrastructure on it, if you follow me.
Yes, I did notice that.
So we moved stuff back and up and then elevated the land where people park and went to floating docks to negate the So those are some answers to your question.
Thank you, yeah, and I understand what most people are doing and what many towns and cities are doing is figuring out a resilience plan and adapting. And that makes a lot of sense because it's happening now.
Yeah.
But what I'm here to do is to ask us to look at the bigger picture and actually look at how we as a community could voice our concern for the level of CO2 and heat trapping gases in our atmosphere and actually, make an endorsement for a particular bill that's in our federal government now that would do that. So that's why I'm here today to talk to you about it. I guess also the other first question I have is, do you know the percentage of renewable energy that the town uses now? because of course many towns are doing their own work budgets.
We did create a pretty large solar array during my first term out at our sewage treatment plant. In terms of the percentage that
Well, it's 3 megawatts, and it takes care of, that we're aggregated here, so it's really hard to say, spread among, but it's meant to cover nearly 100%. It depends on the day, it depends on the sunlight, and also there are fees that Delmarva charges just for the transmission of electricity, but yeah, that was our goal. We have it on a roof here.
Yeah.
And we have Case who stays up with the resiliency opportunities, Case Demoy. So he goes to the workshops, and I read even this weekend, read where the government is talking about billions of dollars. And that's, what the mayor says is completely correct. Our little budget can't, do all the planning for the rising water at where it meets the river. We have been planning about solar since 2008, I guess, and we finally got it done. We were limited in size by the county regulations about doing it on farms. Of course, our lagoon property is not really a farm, and it hasn't been a farm since 1967. But it was 5 acres, that was our max, so we built a 3 megawatt facility there. And we talked about different ways of doing it. We went with a PPA there, which I think has been very successful. Basically, and we purchased power otherwise to back up that when we're not producing in 3-year blocks. And we've been doing that probably for 12 years to minimize the cost. And by doing that, we've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's awesome.
But the next time we buy, I think we will endeavor to buy solar produced energy if we
I
can.
see, you didn't buy solar, I see.
Not the last
Well,
time. But the last time it really wasn't available like it's becoming.
I see,
This
yeah.
industrialized solar is making it available a lot more. So
Right.
I think the college was lucky enough to buy things that are being built nearby. But we'll probably purchase it, and it'll probably be lower than and we'll do it in 3-year groups.
Got it, okay. So I get it, so,
And for a little tiny town like us with 5,000 people, and of course we have this, we have the college here, so everybody's enlightened. But I think we've done a good job with what we have, and we do think about the future, and the mayor did push the idea of raising the elevation of the marina off 3 or 4 acres at huge amount of expense. But USDA.
but that's brilliant, and I'm so glad to hear that. I mean, I was very concerned when I saw this map, that you,
Oh, yeah.
you have thought about. So,
And I just want to say one more thing. Since
Yes.
1983, we've been working with FEMA about the elevation of buildings. And there hasn't been a building built since 2003 that isn't 8 feet above sea level, first floor elevation.
okay,
And
that's cool.
And our policing of that has helped more people get flood insurance than would have been able to by having that.
Oh, that's
It's
wonderful.
no small thing. Okay?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, well, let me, Virginia's going to hand out some of these handouts to talk about HR 763, which is this particular bill that is looking at the very big picture and what the federal government can do to price carbon at the source. So I wish I would have had it up on the screen, but basically, as I said, it was introduced in the Senate last year. It's been introduced in the House. Is anybody familiar with HR 763 by any chance? Okay, David, would you want to say anything about it before I sort of launch into trying to explain it to
Just
you?
a little bit of background. I think as most of you know, I've spent most of my career on environmental projects. What you may not know is at least half of that was spent on working on economic incentives as policy. Basically, those measures that would encourage industry, encourage all of us to do it, rather than the government saying you must do this, do that, each buy this widget or that, but provide an incentive for all of us to use the expertise we have to control or to respond to that, to use renewable energy where possible. one of the things that really strikes me about this particular proposal is it probably comes closest to being a bipartisan effort. There's more of a chance of getting people from both sides of the aisle on this. It was actually a few months ago that Hope made this same presentation or similar presentation to the Environmental Committee. And it's just when we were kind of rejuvenating that organization, and overwhelmingly all of the people on that committee said, hey, this is a great idea, we should endorse it. And then we realized, hey, at the same time we're trying to be an arm of the town council. And we actually raised the issue of, should we be voting for something if we're an arm of the town council, or isn't it more appropriate that a recommendation would come to the town council that they endorse this? And so they stopped short of actually endorsing it themselves with that in mind, not because they didn't approve of it, not because they didn't think it was a very good program and consistent with our overall philosophy on this, but because they didn't think it was appropriate for the committee apart from the town council to. And then the last thing I'd add on this, I think Marty Stetson has raised the issue in the past that it's not appropriate for the town council to take public funds to champion and support individual projects, be it Horizons, be it the library, be it Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or something of that sort. Just wasn't appropriate to tax people to then give or award to different activities. But I think that's totally different when you're talking about spending public funds versus using whatever status we have as an organization to endorse something. We're not taking anything away from somebody for that purpose. So my own feeling is I hope that we could endorse this, but let me pass it back to Hope here.
Okay, thanks, yeah. So what I'd like to do is basically explain the bill so it's really clear, so everybody understands it, show the different aspects of our country that actually support it, scientists on both sides of, on both parties, people from both parties, and also what sort of this Yale opinion map shows in MDO1, which is our district, as well as the nation. So you get an idea of sort of the opinions of our country and our region. So basically the concept is that carbon is taxed at the source. So within the first year, it's $15 per metric ton, and it incrementally increases every year by $10. So the next year it's $25 per metric ton, then $35, $45, and $55. So it's an incremental fee on carbon at the source. So the concept is that all of that money that is gathered from that fee is returned evenly to households across the country. That's called a revenue neutral proposal, which is usually appreciated by the more conservative angles of our country because it doesn't grow government at all. So that's the basic concept. And the outcome is an incredible amount of innovation and job building. With research and development, what the carbon fee does, incrementally building the cost, is give businesses a market signal so that they can plan, so that they can do research and development, and they can work towards, because their product is going to get expensive if it's heavily fossil fueled. But they would be able to then see those costs and start to use renewable energy. And what would happen is what needs to happen, which is a tremendous transformational change within our country of how we live. So do you have any questions? There's this sheet, which is very kind of visual, and then there's this sheet that has sort of an example of the 5 key benefits. But on the back of that sheet is also the border carbon adjustment. So if you're interested in some details, like, well, what does the rest of the world do and how does what we're doing affect the rest of the world, and how is the US protected or not protected. So basically, anything that we import would be subjected to that kind of a carbon fee, but what we export would receive a refund under this policy, so it wouldn't hurt our small businesses or businesses that are exporting goods. And then as far as our regulations, it preserves all effective current regulations. It just doesn't allow the EPA to regulate CO2 on top of the fee, but it keeps all other regulations. So those are some particular details that some people, will ask questions about.
Who's opposed to this, and what is their line of reasoning for opposing it? Are there voices
Well,
out
I
there
think
that
I think that it's an educational piece, right? Many people don't, think that the only way to do it is to regulate. But if you look at, say, the Clean Energy Act, for instance, which was a regulatory act, we got a new president and it went out the window. It's one reason we really focus on a bipartisan bill and work towards this on every angle, and educate people as to how it works. So some, regulation unfortunately takes a really long time. It is really great to be able to tell people what to do and make sure that it's all happening, right? Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe it's really expensive actually, and maybe it takes a long time, and maybe, the government's choosing what energy companies get the money. Whereas in this case, families get the money. It's very even, clear, no matter what your wealth is. Now, it's sort of, the concept is, and people can argue, but this is actually, what we're saying is that this is the best first step, okay? If everybody in this country said, yes, we need to do this now, we are in a crisis, we could do it tomorrow. We could start pricing pollution as it should be, it's pollution. And we could start the process, and we could see what happens. There's a beautiful, 16-year-old in Europe that says we need cathedral thinking. We need to open our minds, start, and see where it goes. Because we're talking about humanity.
Are there other towns on the shore that have endorsed this?
You would be a leader.
Great.
Would you like to be a leader?
And have others been
Sometimes.
asked?
So let's go.
Have others been asked?
Have others been asked? No, I am, there's another leader in Salisbury. She was a college student, now just graduated. There was another leader up in Hartford County, so MDO1. We have, the chapter here, which is 62 strong. It started last October. I did an event last, June 1st to try to start the process, and you're my second stop.
You asked about who is opposing. Obviously, there are people who still believe that climate change is a hoax, and they don't want to have anything to do with it. Not too many of those people are in Chestertown, actually.
But there's a lot of them on the Eastern Shore.
There are a lot on the
Well,
Eastern Shore.
if it's okay,
Sure.
it has over 50 co-sponsors already in the House, okay? So the House members are growing. And they cross 20 states. It has been endorsed by over 100,000 Americans. When you go onto the website, you can see all the amazing Americans who have endorsed it. One being George Shultz. He was the former US Secretary of State and Treasury Secretary for 3 Republican presidents. His words: "The urgency to reduce emissions is now painfully obvious. I fully support the Bipartisan Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. It particularly mitigates, its predictability
Okay.
mitigates price uncertainty. And its full dividend return makes it politically durable, both essential to markets investing in the next great industrial revolution. This bill prices carbon in an efficient, effective, and equitable way that will enhance our national security, help level the playing field in world trade, and redeem America's leadership role, all without growing the size of government." So that's a pretty nice consensus concise statement, as well as John Hansen, who was the climate scientist, former director of NASA, who first warned Congress in 1988. So those are two just examples of the 100,000 that do support it. So if you just go into your handouts, we're almost done here. The Wall Street Journal and economists that have been Nobel laureates and, you know, all recommend a carbon fee and dividend, which is virtually the same concept. You know, these are the ExxonMobil is on part of that group, the Nature Conservancy, the, you know, Environmental Defense Fund, Trout Unlimited, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, Center for Climate and Energy Solutions. Lots of groups support it. And, you know, so the last sort of piece is, well, locally here, what's happening, right? You address that, which I understand. So you can see this is 2019, and this is 2018 in your group of pieces of paper. It's the Yale Opinion Climate map, which, you know, does a series of polling on a regular basis. So you can see that just within 1 year, the folks in District 1, our district, went from, you know, 67% believing that global warming is happening to 69%, 49% believing that global warming is caused by humans to 55%. So it's slowly, incrementally going up. But 65% say that environmental protection is more important than economic growth. That's really important, because that's another argument that people use all the time, right? That we can't afford to do it. But this is trying to be really clear that it's an economic, if we don't do something now, we're in further economic trouble.
I think we're in a situation where we seem to be waiting for somebody else to take that first step, to take action, waiting for the Congress to act. Here's an opportunity, literally at the grassroots level, to be able to say, we think that this is appropriate, that somebody needs to move forward. It's not going to cost us anything to do that. I guess if we really, if in the back of our minds we thought it was a hoax, then yeah, it would be the life and stock of the Eastern Shore. But if we honestly believe that we are under threat, I think our children and our grandchildren will say, hey, they had the good sense to stand up on their hind legs and to speak out and say this would be good for us all.
My personal feelings, like I totally think climate change is a real thing. And, you know, I was just in Dorchester County boating with my wife yesterday, and if you haven't been boating in the Blackwater area, and you could see the, you know, they call them the ghost forests, and just, you could literally see the marsh creeping inland, just in the 10 years that I've been going down there. It's definitely a legit thing, I think, but I'm not ready to endorse this because I just don't know enough about what the fees really are. I would need to maybe sit down one-on-one with you.
Sure.
And learn more about exactly what this is.
Yeah.
But my bigger concern is setting I hope this doesn't sound like a cop-out, but I worry, I feel like our job is to manage the town's money, to fix potholes, to deal with, you know, flooding at Wilmer Park or whatever. I don't know that it's our job to endorse federal legislation that a lot of people in this county may not think is a great idea. I do have concerns about setting a precedent. Like, what if the next group that comes in here is a pro-life group and they want me to endorse that? And what if the next group that comes in here, you know, is a gun control group where Lord knows this county would be split right down the middle. I worry that I would just want to make sure that we stay focused on what I feel like our electorate sent us here to do, which is not necessarily to endorse federal legislation.
Okay.
As much as I think this could potentially be a great thing for America.
Well, I guess bring us back to the maps.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Because I think on some level our government and our local government is here to protect our land and our properties and our town. And Carbon dioxide, when I did the Make a Movement project in Wilmer Park, was 404 parts per million. Do you know what it is now?
Probably higher.
415.
Yeah.
Okay, so for 10,000 years, it never went above 350 parts per million. Just to give you a sort of sense of things. In 2017, it was 404. That was 2 years ago. Now it's at 415. So if you know that the Paris Agreement said, at first, we really shouldn't get above 2 Celsius, right? We are at 1.5, and the Intergovernmental Climate Panel on Climate Change said, actually, sorry, we're already in climate change, and if we don't do something within 12 years, we can't do anything anymore. So I'm only saying that because somebody's got to take leadership somewhere.
I get it,
Yeah.
and I feel like.
But I'm not
Yeah.
taking I'm only here to start the conversation. I didn't really want to ask specifically for a yes or no, but I think that, you know, I'm interested in the conversation, I'm interested in the education, I'm interested in people understanding better what's happening and how we can, as a community, come together and let our representatives know that it's important to us.
I'm just piggybacking on that. I'm Cora Dixon, I'm a member of the chapter. I helped organize the event at the Kent County Library in early June 1st, actually a month ago now. You probably read about it in the Kent County News this past week. Really great coverage, good job. But I just wanted to echo her thoughts because there was a staff of Andy Harris's office at that event. Well, of course, Andy Harris himself wasn't there, but he did send a representative. And I think if we accomplished anything, we definitely impressed upon him how much this community cares about the issue. And I think that...
Has he endorsed this?
No, I don't think we're there yet.
I'm just developing a relationship with him.
However, he sent his staff to learn more. He hasn't come out against it.
That's right.
And the point we're trying to make is, as an Eastern Shore community, and that's his district, the more that the communities speak out about it, maybe the more our representative will listen to that as a regional, this is an issue of regional importance. That's where the symbolism can be most valuable. I realize you probably need more time to look at the materials and all of that. I hear that the committee has already thoroughly looked at it as well. We might want to, talk to them, but regardless, I just hope that you give it a chance to think about what Chestertown can accomplish by this essentially symbolic, but could be very meaningful action to endorse this bill. And I think Congressman Harris would hear it.
Can I ask a question? The choice to take this fee, and hand it directly to the public, is that what I'm reading here?
It's
they charge
a revenue
fee?
neutral, right? And that's
It goes to
households.
Washington, and somehow it comes out.
there's a
The
trust.
same amount comes out.
Just like you receive your tax
Okay.
refund.
Well, I'm not against that, but that benefits, maybe that changes opinions, but does that work on some of the problems that really need to be worked on that are cast in stone right now? No
So-
matter what we do to work towards being carbon neutral, we have a rising sea level. That we're not, it's like a great big freighter ship. You're not going to be able to stop it right away. So, I think this bill sounds fine, and I'm wondering who would be against it if people like ExxonMobil are supporting it. Who would you say would be against it? One company that would be against this bill? Just name one.
Well, oil companies, there's different aspects, okay? Because
Refineries.
it's known, and refinery, yeah. For instance, it's known that they have known that burning fossil fuels would have this outcome
Okay.
for us. What do we need to do? Stop using them, okay? So how do we do that? If we price them, if we make it expensive, that's the
Right.
concept.
So a utility company that's burning coal to produce electricity is going to be one paying this.
That's right.
I just
Yes,
want to know.
no, that's an
Yeah.
example, sure.
Because when I look at these people who are for, I go, what, General Motors and
Anyone who is heavily invested and high
And
carbon
usually
output will
they've
be.
known this has been happening and
No,
they've
no,
been
I
figuring
get
it
all
out.
that, I get all that, but when you take the money from them and then you give it back to the public, I don't know what it solves, okay?
I understand that.
I don't know what it solves.
And that's more, more
But
talking
however, I
about
have
it.
one more thing to say. I don't
Okay.
have any problem with the council, making a statement about whether they're for this idea or not. I mean, whether they state it as for this bill or for the initiatives that these bills are. I think they can do it individually or as a group.
Exactly. You can do it as an individual, but just today, I don't know if you're aware, that there was a meeting of mayors in the country, and they have endorsed a carbon price, a carbon fee. So, as far as what's happening in the country, those are mayors with 30,000 or more, so this town doesn't apply to that particular group of mayors. But, just as far as who is going forward with this, and Bill, I hear what you're saying. It's kind of a leap, right? Like, how does that change to put money in the pockets of people? But what it changes is the prices of fossil fuel. So gas will go up, heating and oil will go up, and people will have to make different choices. And that starts the transformation.
So you'll be paid to be punished.
So you receive a dividend in order to help deal with this change.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, I see how this works. I just think
Okay.
there's some inefficiency in sending any money to Washington and expecting the same. Okay? I mean, it touches too many hands. And I've really said enough. This is really something the council would have to say.
Yeah,
Well, just have a look at all the economists who've signed it. Think about all the people who have endorsed it and how they've thought about it, how much they've thought about it. That's one thing to consider. And, just let's keep the conversation going.
My concern, and for us on council, is that we, a few months ago, had pledged to delay the construction of a 45 megawatt solar field to protect certain lands in the town. My concern is that if we endorse this, would that give the opposition some fuel to come back and say, we still want to put this solar farm here, now that you've already agreed to say that you agree that this is a necessary thing to have. So that's my concern at
Okay.
this point, without having more information like the mayor said, without reading more about it. I just want to make sure that we're protecting the people in this neighborhood that we've already pledged to
Yeah,
serve.
I mean, I think what it's saying is, we recognize this is an important issue, and we recognize and see the big picture, and we would like, we believe a price of pollution is important, and we would like our federal government to move forward on that. It doesn't put you in any responsibility. I mean, you already have a solar farm that gives you 100% solar energy, except when you don't, and you've made a 3-year contract, and in your next 3-year contract, if I understand correctly, you will be choosing solar or wind
We hope,
power.
yeah, we
So
hope.
it's, you're doing your work, which is awesome, and that's a good thing to publicize and be happy about. And these local, issues about where to put a solar farm or a wind farm are really important. They hit us directly, and everybody has a good opinion about it. But this actually is more of is saying, which we need to say more, this is a problem. Right? We just need to say it. It's a problem, and we want our leaders to go forward and work on this with us.
Well, do you think that you could work on a boilerplate resolution for little towns like us?
Sure.
That we could consider at a future meeting after looking at this? Because I think that, my problem with people who come in and immediately ask the council questions, like the group did a month ago, it's like, wait a minute, that's not fair. Tell us what you're really, tell us what you think, and then ask them questions, because they really, except for one member, it's cold stuff that it's brand new to them.
Yeah, right. No, I never really wanted to ask,
Well, it just seems a
for
little
an
unfair to
answer,
me.
but I'm
'cause
suggesting
they're not well enough versed on it
actions.
yet to really say, but
Okay, I would be happy to create a resolution for
and then they can
Chestertown.
formally decide.
We might be able to check with CCL broader organization to see if other towns have done a similar
Well,
resolution?
there,
So we don't have to reinvent
of
the
course they
wheel?
have, but I think ours should be unique. I think ours should be like you would say in Kent County,
Okay,
for the reasons that we're going to say it.
sure. We can work on that together.
Customize it, in other words, is what you're saying. Take a
Yes.
boilerplate template.
Yeah, without
customize it
moving my
to
hands,
fit
that's exactly what
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hope.
That's very good.
The Main Street, I spoke with Kaylee this afternoon, they're gonna come to the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that brings us to item 6, which is the town manager's report.
Oh, boy, it looks great. Looks like I only have one thing, and I don't even have it in my hand,
It's in the file.
but it's for trucks on Touch It Truck.
Yeah, they had to cancel in June because there was impending weather, so they went ahead at July's car show instead. And then they have a rain date in there for August, should it fail.
Well, if we were for it before, we would be for it again, right? Trucks on,
Yes.
on Park Road. So that's great for that to be the only thing on my report. I do want to say that the paving of North Queen Street,
Looks good.
you guys, the paving of North Queen Street, we awarded to the lowest bidder who had all the things submitted. And I think they did a wonderful job. I was on vacation, but Tom Sappington was sending me pictures. And it's incredible to me that a bill that low from a firm that's on the Western Shore, buying their asphalt, by the way, from Bramble, could come over here and do a job that well, doing everything that Tom asked them for, and probably making some people on that street, who are usually very vocal, very happy. So I'm pleased that that's behind us. This windstorm we had the other night did some damage in town. It knocked down a tree that we wanted to take down anyway, but other than that, it didn't hit anything as it fell, so we were extremely fortunate in that respect. And that's really all I have to say. I had a really nice vacation during the MML thing, which I don't go to anymore, so I can have a really nice vacation. I don't feel guilty when I'm on the beach anymore about not being at an MML meeting. So, and I'm saving the town money. So what do you think?
Do you need a motion for this, or are we good?
You're good. Yeah, I mean, the council approved this before, didn't they?
Yes.
Yes,
It was just a-
exactly.
Just noted as a
Change it.
modification to the, really, that's it for me.
Okay, that brings us to the mayor's report. I only have 2 things. We had a vacancy on the planning commission as well as a vacancy on the historic district commission. We had what I thought were a couple of really good citizens express interest. One was Rob Bustler for the opening on the planning commission, so I made a motion to appoint him or vote on his appointment tonight. And then the Reverend Charles Barton expressed interest in filling the vacancy on the Historic District Commission. So tonight I would like to ideally appoint both of these folks. So generally what we do is I ask, we do a vote or a motion?
A motion for each.
So if you guys are not, just before we do this, I know that Marty sent me an email saying he supported both of these nominations in absentia. So if somebody could make a motion to appoint Rob Bustler to the Planning Commission, that would be very helpful.
Well, after having reviewed both resumes, I think both are excellent candidates, and I'd make a motion to support it.
To appoint Rob
To
Bustler
appoint
to the
Rob
Planning
Butler to the
Commission
planning commission, yes.
and the Reverend Charles Barton for the Historic District.
Yes, I would make the motion to have both of them serve us.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, I'll let those guys know.
Amen. Have them come visit us.
The only other thing for me is, I just want to let you guys know, I'm actually not going to be at our next meeting on the 15th. So I don't know how you're going to fill
We have
that.
that glockenspiel wheel that we get and we
I don't know how you're
spin
gonna
it.
fill
We
that
put-
void
put
of
4
power,
names in
but-
it and we spin that thing and we a wild card of me.
I will not be here at our next meeting, so just a heads up.
I'm happy with the nominations and for those commissions. I do have a question with regard to the Historic Commission. Do we have any requirement that some of them live in the Historic District?
Yes, and he does.
Okay,
Yeah, but not
Not all.
all.
not all of them.
Not all, but Mr. Martin does.
But we don't have a requirement that all of them be from the historic
No.
district. We
Or
do have
half of them, or-
But in
qualifications that-
town.
We do have qualifications that some of them are supposed to have in certain
Yes.
studies. that they have
Architecture.
Backgrounds
Right.
and
I have to file forms with the state
Yep.
each year for
how
that.
many have this, how many have that.
Okay.
All right, well, that concludes my report. That brings us to board reports, so why don't we start with you,
Okay.
Mr. Foster?
Well, I left town for a few days to go to MML, and I came back and the street was paved. Had I known that, I would have left earlier. I don't know. And the road looks great, and
Yes, it does.
it really does. Before going, I did have a meeting with Commissioner Fithian, and I think I mentioned at our previous meeting that he had offered to meet with me. We met for a little over an hour, and very, very cordial. He has agreed to some form of an audit, and I expressed a desire that we have a neutral person that, and he was comfortable with that. He said, you know, when we pick somebody, he'd like to be able to have some background and might want to do his own vetting of that person, but seemed clear on that. I have reached out, I asked people, and met with Mir Boda, who is head of the Concil in Salisbury, and just kind of things that they're doing, and I've asked him for suggestions about people who might help with this. I asked several people, some suggested that someone from the University of Maryland, one of the institutes there, might be able, and I've been in contact with two of those institutes, and they said, gee, we'd love to help, but nobody on our staff at the moment. And then a third person wrote back today saying, tell me more, and so we can, but I think we're in a good space right now, and we do need to follow up, come up with a good candidate for that, and then go back to Commissioner Fithian on this. And I've also asked him directly, what about the other commissioners? Are they on board? And he claims that yes, that they are. Now, nobody's talking about numbers and what sort of thing, but I think this is a step forward that we haven't had before. And I'm pleased.
So when you say we need to get a person, I'm assuming we are looking to get a consultant type of individual that would essentially calculate, what I think we need to do is have somebody calculate what I consider a massive cost savings that we provide the county by policing ourselves, maintaining our own streets, and doing our own planning and zoning. Those being
That's the way I've expressed it to Commissioner
In other
Fithian.
words,
It's
what
money
would it
we
cost?
save. It's
What
not
would
money
it-
we spend, but money we save the county.
If the county were to police Chestertown and be the primary police coverage institution, what would that cost them? And what would it cost them to add our 25 miles of roads to their street maintenance? It's not gonna be a small number.
It's not.
And hopefully it'll like raise some eyebrows over there. I don't know if it will.
But we
but-
do have audits from year after year after year that aren't too far apart except for capital projects.
But I would think they're gonna want someone that's not us, like saying, this is what
And-
we
and
spent.
vice
Because they're
versa.
gonna always say, well, we could do it. for
What I
cheap.
meant was we turn those audits over to somebody who knows what they're looking at, and they can.
Yeah, that's good.
They can make a chart of the last 20 years for all I care.
Right.
It's still gonna be a number that dwarfs any number they ever consider.
Agreed.
Well, we can add in the water and sewer.
Don't need to get it. Just do the sewer, that'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's interesting, David. Thanks for following up on that. Linda?
Okay, Sumner Hall has put out a request that they're growing and they're looking for a fresh, new look to celebrate their growth, and they're looking for a web designer. So you can go on Sumner Hall's website if you're interested in that. And Music in the Park is back in Fountain Park. We had the first concert with Annapolis Bluegrass, And then next Saturday is Chesapeake Brass. And I want to get with Peter, I want to get with Jane. I had questions, why can't we find the concert series, on the town's website? So I want to get with Jane and see if we can put it on the calendar.
Yeah, I don't have the list yet, and I
Yeah.
didn't even know that it was occurring until the Wednesday before, so
Yeah.
it was a little late.
We
thought
usually-
she had sent that list in, so I don't know what happened.
Yeah, just didn't get it.
Yeah.
I'll tell Jane to give you a call. then.
Okay. Well, do you put it on the website?
No, but I can, if I know what it is, I can put it on.
Okay. First Friday will be July 5th, and I think there's some activities that have been planned. I don't know what's going on between Main Street and the DCA. I don't have, a total grasp on, what DCA is doing and what Main Street's doing, or if Main Street's gonna take it over. I don't know. I was invited, as were the rest of us, we were invited to Kent Center Friday morning, and Senator Cardin's, a representative from his office was there, and our, two of our 36th district delegation legislators. And as you know, Kent Center is for the developmentally disabled individuals, and it was nice. It was a tour of the building and some of their enterprises, which are, Soap with Hope, which they partner with Washington College to make the soap. They have Hidden Treasures and shredding business. And they also have supported employment at Washington College, at Infinity Recycling, Dixon, and some of the other businesses around town, which people don't really realize how much of, an impact that the individuals at Kent Center have in our workforce in Kent County. And then, I don't know whether you've seen this or not, but and this isn't my ward, but the Humane Society of Kent County is having their fundraiser to get on the calendar with your pet. And there are over 40 people trying to get spots 1 through 12. I was in 22. I have remained in the second place for 2 weeks now. You vote with $5 a vote. You can go on the Humane Society website. The email I got today, they've already raised over $10,000, and 100% of the money goes to the shelter animals. So Sarah would like to be Miss August on the calendar.
Both a human and a dog in it? Okay.
Sarah and I.
I was just
Yeah.
curious.
And then I wanted to read Sabine's email, if I can find it here, about the market dollars and, darn, and the farmer's market. I just had the email here. But anyway, the nutrition, darn. I don't know where, it must have dropped off or something,
You
anyway.
guys look like millennials there with your cell phone.
No, everybody.
I- I-
What the heck's going on
I-
here? They
I
got
just-
people out here.
I just got home from work, and I didn't have time to,
That's yours?
to.
Bring it up, bring it up. It's that one shot.
You have it,
everybody.
you have it, Jen?
Oh, I can read it, let me find it.
Here it is, thank you,
Okay.
David.
Next week, no paper.
Sabine, thank you.
Paperless
Sabine
meeting.
wanted us to give an update on the market, and, I mean, she is doing a fantastic job, and she would be here, but she still hasn't gotten her voice back. So, wait a minute. The market is thriving. She has new vendors, and she keeps getting new requests, but most of all, they started issuing the first Farmers Market Nutrition Program coupons to WIC recipients. And I think this is an old one. I think she said the first week there was $90-some in the spent with the coupons, and 100 and some the last week, which means like $195, which are people who are buying at the farmer's market who wouldn't normally have come to the farmer's market probably, but now they have the coupons and they're definitely getting healthy and nutritious food at the market. And then, let's see, she has a total of 75 coupon booklets worth $2,250 in revenue for our farmers. So that is one program. And then Upper Shore Aging will start with the same coupons to senior citizens who are on food assistance, and they have 25 booklets or another $750 for the seniors. So Sabine has been communicating by stickies because she hasn't gotten her voice back yet. But yeah, in the past 2 weeks, $195 in the farmers market dollars. The coupons have been redeemed down at the market. So this is wonderful. I think it is. It's bringing everybody to the market, and this is a really nice draw to the market. So,
No doubt.
yeah, because you know, there's a slew of vegetables and produce, other produce, flowers even, and baked goods, and it's like wall to wall down there now. But it's fun. It really is. It's like a social gathering on Saturday morning. Now, my last item, thank you very much. I think we as a council should, the mayor, look at the money that will be realized from not having the 14th police officer on our police force, and I think we need to look at the budget and designate that money appropriately so that maybe it goes to the police department if they need a new vehicle or if they're going to need to lease a vehicle. I think it needs a designation, and I'm not going to back down on this. I just...
No, but we had a motion and we took a vote.
not to do it, but I'm
That's
bringing
right.
it back up again.
Okay.
Then to help me understand, is it that you don't want to come in and find that that money is a block of it's been spent without the council being aware of it?
We
or-
passed a budget. I
Right.
want to know where that money, the money was budgeted in the budget.
Right.
It is not going to be spent because we have reduced the police force from 14 officers to 13.
Right, I
I
understand.
want to know where that money is going to be allocated in the budget.
All right, I don't think it's accurate to say that we've downsized the police force from 14 to 13. We've been operating at 12 all year. So I think that's a myth. It's a myth that we've ever operated at 14. I'd say in the 6 years I've been here, we've probably had 14 officers, maybe 25% of the time.
But you had 14 officers budgeted.
I know that, but my point is, with our budget being as tight as it is, why are we budgeting for something that we never achieve when we could be showing a small surplus, which really isn't a surplus. It's showing that we have 50 grand more in revenue projected, not in reality, but
Well, we don't have
projected
it, yeah.
over expenses, so that if Bob Sipes was just here with a laundry list of things that went wrong, that he wasn't anticipating.
And he has
That's what the
capital.
50,000 is for. It's not, if we budget it and say, all right, you get 2 more police cars, then we don't have any contingency if we have unanticipated expenses.
Well, the
It's kind of like I
utilities
have a
commission-
checking account with my wife, and we have a savings account, in case my furnace blows unexpectedly. Like, it's not that complicated. Like,
I understand that, but the Utilities Commission has capital. Those funds are set aside for capital funds.
we don't
How about
have
if
that
we-
kind of cushion.
But
They've
how
done
about
a really
if
nice
we-
job of.
We
Put it in the capital
start
fund.
this with capital funds.
We'll put it contingency / capital. It's really, I'm with the mayor, you know, you voted on the issue last time, and for it to come up in ward reports every time, it doesn't seem like the right place to be.
And we also have a member that's not here that didn't support the motion last time. I mean, I
Well, I
think
can
if
bring it
you
up
want
at
to
the
discuss
next
it again,
meeting.
we
I can
can
bring
put
it up at the next meeting.
I think we should make it an agenda item.
Yeah.
That's what I was
I
saying.
wouldn't be psyched about it because I feel like we've already talked about it and voted on it.
Well, I think you have the right to see where we put it in the budget. So Amanda and I will give you a draft from where it coming out of those salaries and all those other benefits that it was where it was. I mean, it's probably in 12 places, that officer. And basically, I think you're right about one thing. It's hard to maintain 12, 13, or 14, especially when neighboring cities are stealing a candidate after 5 months of salary. I'm still burned up about that, and this is too intimate as far as I'm concerned for this to happen. So if you can't keep 13, or you can't keep 14, 13 is the next best number. Yeah, you want to be helpful, and I'm happy that you funded that $1.7 million budget, but I mean, really, I think you're becoming more aware of the fact that, you know, the revenues aren't there to support that at that level. We don't have any capital items this time. We do have repair on the police vehicles, there's a lot of them, okay? So why don't we just leave it at that?
I think we should
Make it an agenda item.
And we didn't fund depreciation.
Yeah, really. And that's where your capital items come later on.
Right.
So we are in agreement to have it as an agenda item next
Yeah, but
I'm not going to be here, but
Well, I think
Go
when
for it.
we're next fully there, then this is something the whole council should talk about, is the budget and changes to it. But this is like a pebble in the ocean.
I understand that.
I know, but you brought it up again, so I'm just making a comment, okay?
all right, let's make it an agenda item if we feel so inclined.
Amen. Been approached this week by an organization known as Outward Bound, from Baltimore, who has self-esteem and confidence building camps for children. And they have some money to spend, and they want to spend it over here on the Eastern Shore. So I've been looking for some teenagers and young folks to sign up for this project, where they go to those, do bungee jumping and team building exercises. I guess, don't the police sponsor that kind of thing, Chief?
We haven't in any recent time.
Anyway, those are the kind of camps that they'll be going to get them out and do some confidence and team building things. So I'll have more information on that at the next meeting. And Washington Park, Carpenter Park is finally getting started. The stakes are in the ground. Case and I have, and Harold Somerville have finalized the last draft of the plan, and I expect construction to get started within the next week or so.
That's great.
That's a good thing. Hopefully by the end of the summer, it'll be all completed.
Awesome.
And that's what I
Can you,
have.
I've had people ask about that. Can you put it on the website, or can you email the plan?
I can put that on the
Keith has
website.
all the information on it.
Yeah,
Yes.
actually I do, because I'm doing the permit, so I'll get that up there tomorrow.
All right. So that's come along nicely.
All right, is that it?
That's it.
Can I do Marty's report?
Sure.
I just want to know, well,
Let's
just
say,
go pretend,
I didn't
I
even
just
say
want to
how
know
bad
where
that
that
came.
ordinance I asked for at the last meeting is about the rules for the dog park. Where are they? Bill, have you done them yet? No, I'm sorry.
All right. We didn't have any requests from the public to be on the agenda. Are there any questions or comments? Yes.
Yes, I do. I am wondering if any of you have been approached about, by a gentleman who I would say that I have seen him in town since early May, and he will approach you and say, hello, my name is Trent, I'm a Christian.
Yes.
And he's looking for a job, and he wants money, and he'll take some food, or he is quite forward. He has approached me numerous times, and I'll say, Trent, it's me, again, you see me, you know. I'm wondering, does anyone know anything about him?
I've met him, just like you passing him on the street. He told me he's from Dorchester County. That's about all I know. He says that he's homeless. He's trying to find work. He's approached different ones about doing yard work. Outside, and he did repeatedly bring up the fact that he was a Christian. And outside of that, that's all I know about him. I've run into him on, sitting up here on High Street in front of the Scams property.
Well, he comes right, I'll be sitting on my porch, and he'll just stop and stand there and talk to me. Now, I happened to mention to Bad Alfred in his place, and he said he offered him a job, and he mentioned that 2 or 3 other businesses had offered him a job, and Alfred said, I got this wall, I need this wall painted, come, here's the paint, here's the shirt, paint the wall. He started it, no, I don't like that, and then he left. Alfred seems to think that the gentleman may be an addict and is just looking for money, wants the money. I mentioned this to someone else, and they said, well, he had a friend who said, look, come with me, I'll take you over to Ellen's and I'll get you a lunch. No, he didn't want to do that. So he's just pleasant, but yet very strange. So I was just wondering if anyone, or maybe you know of Trent. I don't think that I would walk right up to you and...
He approached me in the farmer's market.
Okay.
If I may, and you don't want to get too specific about an individual, but the police are familiar with him. We have responded to some complaints and concerns. He has been offered help, I know, by citizens and through our agency, and in most cases, what you describe, has declined it. So, he's on a fine line of disturbing people, but he has not yet crossed that line to where we would make an arrest or there's been a criminal violation. But if you have a concern, then call us and we will certainly have an appropriate response.
Okay, so everyone knows about it.
Yeah.
I will.
There are some other people.
He's quite bold. He's quite bold. I don't know.
He's friendly.
And the county have let their employees go. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
I was supposed to bring this up, and I'm sorry. The state and the county are giving Friday, July 5th off, and I've had pressure from employees about what we want to do. So I want to be able to say I asked the council how they feel about that.
I think it's fun.
It's not going to disrupt business in any way, is it? You need a motion or something for that to happen?
No, you can just tell me whether it pleases you or displeases you. Carry it out.
How much money is it going to cost?
$50,000, I think it's going to be, exactly. I think it's a good idea. I mean, it's hard to, when the state does it and then the county does it, it's very hard to tell
The
people
county
why.
decided to do it too?
I just asked them, what if it was Wednesday? Would they say Thursday and Friday off? And what if it was Tuesday? Would they say Wednesday, Thursday?
I have no objection.
No objection needed.
Thank you.
It's fine.
Any other questions or comments?
No, wait a minute. So the city employees have off on Friday?
Well, it looks like they might. I think all 4 of them, but that's why I wanted to ask, because so many people count on pickups on Friday for yard waste and all that, and if we do that, we're gonna have to expedite it and do it that or a lot on Monday. You would be amazed at how many truckloads of brush and stuff people put out. It's really a lot.
Right now, we're being inundated with phone calls of, are you closed on Friday?
Yeah, we didn't, I don't think we actually knew
knew
until people started calling and saying, are you gonna be closed? So,
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Thank you for that, Council.
I make a motion, we adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Chief, will you let your know that however you
great
do your
holiday.
watches that we got.